Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm diving into one of the most awe-inspiring moments in biblical history: Moses and the parting of the Red Sea. This story is not just about a miraculous escape, but about the unwavering trust in God's power when all hope seems lost. Join me as I challenge myself to recreate the impossible. Let's see if I can part the waters and make it to the other side. The Israelites had endured centuries of oppression under the harsh rule of the Egyptian Pharaoh. For generations, they had cried out for freedom, longing to escape the cruel grasp of slavery. Their pleas for deliverance were met with silence, until one day, God called upon Moses to lead his people out of Egypt. It was no easy task, and Moses faced many challenges along the way, hardening the Pharaoh's heart, enduring plagues, and confronting the mighty Egyptian empire. After a dramatic series of events, including the final plague that struck Egypt, Pharaoh finally relented. The Israelites were free to go, but their freedom came at a cost, as Pharaoh soon realized the weight of his decision. Filled with rage and fear, Pharaoh quickly gathered his chariots and army, determined to bring the Israelites back into captivity, no matter what it took. As Moses and the Israelites made their way toward freedom, they came to a terrifying realization: the Egyptian army was in pursuit. Pharaoh had changed his mind, and he was determined to stop them at all costs. They found themselves in an impossible situation. Behind them, the Egyptians advanced, their horses galloping toward the Israelites. In front of them stretched the Red Sea, an immense body of water with no visible way across. Panic set in. The Israelites had nowhere to go. They were trapped, with the sea blocking their escape and the Egyptians closing in fast. Some began to cry out in fear, questioning Moses' leadership. "Were there no graves in Egypt, that you brought us to die in the wilderness?" they grumbled. Fear and doubt spread quickly among the people. They had been rescued from slavery, but now they were faced with a new danger that seemed impossible to overcome. In this moment of desperation, Moses did not lose his composure. Despite the mounting tension and fear around him, he turned to the one who had called him to lead, the God who had already proven his power through the plagues, the God who had promised to deliver his people. Moses knew that God's plan was not yet finished, and he trusted that there was a way forward, even if it didn't make sense to the people around him. Moses stood firm, raising his staff and calling upon the Lord. The air around him began to stir, and the winds howled. Then, something miraculous began to happen. The sea started to churn and shift. The waters seemed to part, creating a dry path through the middle of the sea. The people watched in awe and disbelief as the impossible became reality. The very elements of nature bent to God's will, creating a passage where there was none before. The Israelites, though hesitant at first, realized that they had no choice but to follow Moses and trust in God's plan. With each step, they walked on dry ground, the towering walls of water on either side. Imagine the fear, the awe, and the wonder they must have felt as they crossed this path of divine intervention. The sea had not just parted, it had become a conduit of salvation. But time was running out. The Egyptian army was still in hot pursuit. The Israelites had to move quickly, their hearts racing as they saw the dust rising from the advancing chariots. Every moment was critical. The Egyptians followed closely, thinking they could reclaim their slaves, unaware that they were walking into a trap. As the Israelites neared the other side, Moses raised his staff once more, signaling God to finish his work. The waters, which had held back the sea, began to collapse. The Egyptians, who were in the middle of the sea, suddenly realized their fate. The waters came crashing down, drowning Pharaoh's army and horses. The very sea that had been their means of escape became their undoing. As the last wave crashed over the Egyptians, the Israelites reached the far shore, safe and sound. They turned and saw the water closing in, sealing off any hope of pursuing them. The Egyptians, who had once been their oppressors, were now no more. The Israelites were free. This moment was not just a miracle of nature, it was a powerful testament to God's sovereignty and faithfulness. Despite all odds, God made a way where there seemed to be no way. The Israelites had trusted in His power, and He had delivered them from certain destruction. This miraculous escape showed them, and us, that when we place our faith in God, He can do the impossible. As the Israelites stood on the shore, they didn't just see a sea that had parted, they saw the hand of God at work in their lives. They were no longer slaves, and they were no longer helpless. They were free, and their trust in God had been rewarded. This story is a reminder that no matter how impossible the situation may seem, God can always make a way. When we face challenges that seem insurmountable, we can trust that God's power is greater than any obstacle we may face. What do you think about this incredible story? Can you imagine what it must have felt like to witness such a miraculous escape? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing biblical accounts, and I'll see you in the next video. If this story inspired you, let me know how you've seen God's power in your own life. And if you want to dive deeper into more biblical moments, be sure to check out my other videos. Stay tuned for more incredible stories that show how faith can move mountains.